At my sister's baby shower, my mom raised a champagne glass to our princess in her beautiful new home. Disbelieving, then my dad smiled and pulled out a house deed, a tremor of pain. The crowd clapped. My sister cried. It was my apartment, quiet. Fury. I stood there frozen. By sunrise, every appliance, every bulb, even the light switch covers were gone. My sister texted, "Is this a joke?" I said, "Not yet. Wait for the punchline." Raina had always believed in building things, structures, relationships, homes. As an architect in the heart of Austin, she spent her days sketching out futures for other people, transforming blueprints into spaces filled with light and life. But her apartment, that modest 2-bedroom on the east side, was different. It wasn't just another project, it was hers. Every corner, every crack, every fixture had a story. The reclaimed wood shelves she'd mounted herself, the antique light sconces she found in a flea market in Marfa, the custom arched mirrors she'd hauled in through the stairwell by herself. It was a sacred space, a symbol of independence and identity. She was close with her younger sister Layla, or at least she used to be. Layla had always been the favorite. It wasn't even subtle. Their parents spoiled her with praise, with gifts, with second chances. When Raina graduated with honors, they nodded. When Layla dropped out of her second college and announced she wanted to become a wellness influencer, they threw a party. But Raina never held it against her, not completely. She loved her sister. She wanted her to succeed, so when Layla invited her to the baby shower, Raina went. She bought a thoughtful gift, a handcrafted wooden cradle she'd ordered weeks in advance. It was expensive, imported from Scandinavia, and engraved with the baby's name. She wrapped it in pale pink linen and placed it carefully in the back seat of her car. The event was held at a rented space in downtown Austin. There were balloon arches, grazing tables, themed drinks, and a photographer capturing every curated moment. As Raina walked in, she felt the usual pang, that ache of being slightly out of place at her own family's event. But she smiled and found a corner to sit in, waiting for the gift-giving portion to begin. Then came the toast. Her mother stood up, beaming. "To our Layla," she said, raising a champagne glass. "Our princess, our miracle, and now ... mother." There were murmurs of awe and camera flashes. Raina sipped her drink quietly. Her father stood beside her mother. "And to new beginnings," he added, holding up a large envelope. "We wanted to do something special, something lasting." Layla giggled, covering her mouth. "You guys didn't have to." He pulled out a folded document and began reading. "By the power vested in the Travis County Clerk's office, this deed hereby transfers ownership of the property located on..." Raina's heart stopped. She knew that address. It was her address. Her apartment. There was a pause, then an eruption of claps and cheers. Layla screamed, "What?" and hugged both of them tightly. "This is insane," she squealed, holding the deed up for photos. "You got me home?" Her parents laughed, basking in the applause. Raina didn't move. She stared at the paper in Layla's hands, her mind trying to process the impossibility of it. That can't be real. That had to be a mistake. They couldn't have. She blinked, hoping someone would notice her. Say something, explain. But no one looked her way. Not her mother, not her father. Not Layla. Not a single person in that room realized or cared that they had just stolen her life's anchor and handed it over like a baby shower favor. Raina stood up slowly. Her throat was dry, her limbs numb. She turned with Oliver, gift still in hand, and walked out. She didn't cry. Not yet. She didn't scream. She just laughed. The late afternoon sun hit her face as she stepped outside. It was blinding and too warm. Like everything was too real. She reached her car, placed the cradle in the trunk, and got in. She sat in the driver's seat with the engine off, staring at the wheel for a full minute. Her phone buzzed. A cousin tagging her in a story. When your fam surprises you with a whole apartment. #blessed, #baby shower vibes. Raina powered. The phone off. She drove home. Not home anymore, she supposed, but it still had her keys, her things, her scent. She didn't stop to think. By 6 a.m. the next morning, the apartment was stripped bare. The appliances gone, light switch covers removed, furniture hauled out by a moving truck she hired overnight. By the time Layla texted, "Is this a joke?" Raina responded calmly, "Not yet, wait." Raina didn't go back to their apartment, after emptying it. She drove aimlessly through the winding highways that hugged Austin's edges, past familiar streets and unfamiliar corners. Her heart was numb, but her mind spun like a turbine refusing to stop. She kept hearing her father's voice, "A gift from all of us." All of us. What did that mean? Who was us? And why did they think they could erase her so cleanly? She gripped the steering wheel tighter as her car coasted down. South Congress. She remembered every struggle that apartment held. The time the AC broke in the summer and she couldn't afford a technician, so she spent 3 nights sleeping in a soaked tank top on the tile floor. The time she stayed up till 3 a.m. finalizing a design proposal on that flimsy IKEA coffee table. The time she framed her first project check and hung it above the entryway light. Everything in that place had been a part of her. And they handed it to Layla like a party favor. She pulled into a gas station and parked. The silence in the car was suffocating. She exhaled shakily, letting her forehead rest against the steering wheel. Then, without looking up, she whispered to herself, "They didn't take my apartment. They took my name off it." The distinction hit harder than she expected. She reached for the glove compartment and pulled out a manila folder. Inside were copies of the original mortgage documents, signed and dated by her and her parents. When she first bought the place, she hadn't been able to qualify for the full mortgage herself. Her parents had co-signed. It was supposed to be temporary, and it was. Within 2 years, she'd refinanced, paid off the balance, bought out their share. She had the wire transfer receipts and notary papers to prove it. They shouldn't have access to the deed anymore. Not legally, but her parents still had copies of the original documents that listed them as co-owners. From the time before she refinanced, she realized what had happened. They had taken those old documents and filed a fraudulent deed transfer, quietly, while smiling in her face. And in one move, they'd stripped her of her home and gifted it to her sister like it was theirs to give. Raina's chest rose and fell slowly. That wasn't just betrayal, it was fraud. Her hands trembled, but her face didn't flinch. In the passenger seat, her phone buzzed again. She glanced at the screen. It was Layla, another message. This one read, "You knew they wanted to help me out. Don't be dramatic. You have money. You'll be fine." Raina stared at the text for a long time. Her jaw clenched so tight her teeth ached. She thought about the sacrifices Layla never saw. The loans, the late nights, the heartbreak of being the responsible daughter. The quiet erosion of self every time her success was treated like a fluke and Layla's whims were treated like destiny. They had always asked Raina to understand, to be the bigger person, to be patient, to be generous, and she had not until now. Raina set the phone down and started the engine. Her breath steadied and something cold settled in her spine. Let them have it then, the shell of what she built. Let them decorate it with Pinterest boards and live laugh love signs. Let them pretend it was ever theirs to give. They'd stolen her home, but not her power, because Raina didn't just build walls and roofs. She built plans. She had blueprints for everything. And this time, It wasn't about floor plans, it was about Justice Dot. She would start with a title company, have the deed reviewed, pull the transaction history, cross-reference it with bank statements, payoff letters, and refinance records. She knew real estate law. Her industry required it. She could already imagine the paper trail forming like bricks, clicking into place. And when the time came, she would take it to court. Not for the apartment. No, she didn't want it. Back. She wanted the truth documented, publicly, permanently. She wanted them to see what it felt like to have something beautiful and secure suddenly ripped away without warning, and she wanted to smile through it. Just like they had thought as she pulled onto the freeway, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the city in a soft amber glow. The skyline stood firm, unshaken by the day's betrayals. Raina glanced at her rearview mirror. Her eyes were tired, but sharp. She wasn't running, she was resetting. This wasn't the end of her story, it was just the fault line. The shift. The rupture before the rebuild. And she wasn't afraid of starting over. Not when she had the blueprint, not when she finally stopped asking for permission. Let them enjoy their stolen prize. They just made the worst mistake of their lives. They'd underestimated the woman who built it all. Raina sat cross-legged on the floor of her temporary Airbnb. Manila folders spread out in a half moon around her like a battlefield of truths. Her laptop was open, tabs scattered across the screen, emails, scanned documents, PDF receipts. Her fingertips hovered above the keyboard, twitching with a strange combination of grief and growing resolve. Then it happened. She found the notary email. There it was, dated 3 years ago. A formal confirmation from the title office verifying the transfer of ownership. Her parents had officially relinquished their names from the deed. She had wired them the funds, taken over the mortgage, and finalized everything with signatures and seals. Her breath caught. There it is. Her heart began to race, not with panic this time, but with clarity. She wasn't crazy. They had no legal right. None. She clicked open another folder. Receipts. Thousands of dollars worth. Custom couch. Vintage dining table. Pendant lights. Her modular bookshelf. That wall-mounted bike rack she designed herself. All purchased from her accounts. Dated. Track. Every single thing. Her phone buzzed. Another Instagram notification, Layla posting pictures of the baby shower of her apartment, laughing under her chandelier, sitting on her leather armchair. Like a queen, Raina didn't open it. Instead, she reached for her phone and called Nina, an old friend from architecture school who now specialized in property law. Raina? Nina sounded groggy. Everything okay? Raina's voice was calm, but her words were knives. I need you to look at something. It's urgent. My parents filed a new deed on my apartment, but I have a notarized release from 3 years ago. They used an outdated cosign document. Nina paused. Then that sounds like fraud. Exactly, Raina whispered. After a beat, Nina asked, do you want to press charges? Raina exhaled slowly. I don't want the apartment. Then, what do you want? Raina looked around the small Airbnb. The plain walls, the empty shelves. Then she looked inward. At what they had done. At what they thought they'd gotten away with. I want them to know they never owned a piece of me. She said. Nina didn't need more. Send me everything. Raina hung up and began compiling files. PDFs clicked into place. Every receipt, every thread, every dated transfer. A digital tapestry of ownership, but then her mind shifted, the apartment's contents. Her eyes widened. Sat back, stunned for a moment. The deed might claim the property, but nothing inside it, not one lamp, not one curtain rod, was part of that transfer. Unless they itemized the interior assets in a bill of sale or additional legal clause, which they hadn't, then by law, every piece of it, still hers, all of it, A wave of realization surged through her. She didn't have to fight for the building. She could take back the soul of the place. Strip. Get bare. Erase every ounce of herself from their little fairy tale. Her mouth curled into a slow, knowing. Smile. Time to redecorate. To zero, she pulled out her notebook and made a list out of items. But moments, the first night she cooked ramen on that stove, the shelf where she kept her grandfather's watch, the corner where she cried after losing her first client, the window where she watched fireworks on New Year's Eve. They didn't just take a home. They tried to erase her history. So she'd return. Not with rage. Not with lawyers. Yet, she'd walk in like a whisper and leave the place empty, like the love that used to fill their family. They wanted the apartment? Fine, let them keep the empty shell. Let them feel the cold echo of nothing. Raina didn't speak much that evening. She didn't need to. By midnight, she had lined up 3 moving vans and a discreet crew of night shift professionals she occasionally used on high-end renovation jobs, no questions asked. Paid in full. One condition, be there at 3 a.m. sharp. She didn't want witnesses. No neighbors, no family, no gossip. This wasn't a rage-fueled act. It was precise, surgical. At 2:45 a.m. She parked down the block from her own former apartment and watched the quiet street stretch under orange streetlights. The building stood still, unaware of the extraction about to take place inside it. By 3:01, the crew had arrived, 2 men and a woman, all wearing dark uniforms. She greeted them with a nod and unlocked the front door. As soon as the movers stepped in, the operation began like clockwork. The oven gone in 20 minutes. The refrigerator unplugged, wrapped, wheeled out. The dishwasher disconnected, lifted. With care, loaded. Curtains, rugs, sheets, blankets, folded, rolled, bagged. Even the throw pillows from the reading nook vanished into cartons. Raina moved with them, unscrewing light bulbs as they went. Every fixture she'd bought, vintage sconces, Edison bulbs, pendant lamps, was carefully removed and labeled. The living room darkened slowly, like a stage closing after a performance. The couch stayed, but not the cushions. She zipped them out of their covers and bagged them separately, leaving only the bare frame. The bed, dismantled. The mattress, hauled out like a body. In the kitchen, she opened every cabinet. She didn't just take the dishes and cookware, she took the cabinet handles too. Every drawer and door was left with small, empty holes where knobs used to be. Like eyes hollowed out, the bathroom was next, the mirror hers. The shower curtain gone. Even the towel rods were unscrewed and wrapped in cloth. She stared at the toilet for a second, then smiled. She left the toilet paper roll, half-used, torn unevenly, then pulled a new one pink, sticky note from her bag and wrote carefully in black ink. Not a joke. Yeah. She stuck it right on the wall next to the roll. It wasn't about pettiness. It was about precision. Let them feel the empty air when they reached for warmth. Let them wonder why even the small things were gone. Let them see the truth. The apartment wasn't theirs. It never was. 5:42 a.m. The apartment echoed. The soft hum of life appliances, textiles, lighting was gone. The hardwood floors were bare. The walls, once glowing in soft lamplight, were gray and distant. It felt like an unfinished painting. A body without a soul. Raina did one last sweep, checked the drawers, turned off the circuit breaker, and then she walked to the kitchen counter where, just days ago, her father had stood with a fraudulent deed in hand. She placed the apartment key inside a wine glass, the same one they'd toasted Layla with. It clinked gently against the glass walls, like a single chime in a hollow cathedral. She stepped back. She didn't say anything clever, didn't leave a dramatic note, just that single pink sticky in the bathroom and a cold apartment filled with absence. She locked the door behind her, turned the knob once, and walked away. Outside, the sun had started to rise. She felt it on her face, the light soft and pink. Her phone vibrated in her pocket, probably another giddy text from Layla or a post tagged with #homegoals. Reina didn't check it. She walked calmly to her car, slid behind the wheel, and drove off. Let them enter their gift and discover the silence. Let them stand inside walls that once held her dreams and now held nothing. She didn't need revenge. She'd already taken everything that mattered. By the time the sun stretched across the skyline and lit the windows of Austin's East Side, the justice had already taken shape. Reina had barely finished her first cup of coffee when her phone buzzed. A message from Layla. Is this a joke? No greeting. No apology. Just a confused text with a tinge of entitlement, as if someone had taken away her property instead of the other way around. Reina smiled, slow and bitter, then typed, not yet, but wait for the punchline. She didn't expect a reply. Nor did she care. An hour later, her phone chimed again, not from Layla this time, but from Nina. Her lawyer friend had moved fast. A formal cease and desist had already been filed. It was backed with documentation, ownership records, bank receipts, the notarized release from her parents, and the unlawful transfer that had attempted to overwrite her deed. It was clean, cold, final. The apartment was hers, not just emotionally, but legally unshakably so. Fraud was a serious matter. And with Reina's documentation airtight, the law was no longer just on her side. It was about to work in her favor. Attached to Nina's email were 2 PDFs. 1. An official eviction notice directed at Layla. 2. A fraud investigation notification. Addressed to both parents. Reina read them both twice, calmly. No joy, no glee, just relief. Like watching a storm cloud pass after months of thunder. Meanwhile, across town, Layla must have returned to what she expected to be her new, gifted castle. Instead, she would have found a stripped-down shell. No appliances, no warmth, no furniture. Just empty rooms, holes where drawer handles once were, and that lone half-used toilet paper roll with a pink, sticky note beside it. Reina could imagine the rage on her sister's face. The shock. The confusion. She hoped she screamed, because when someone tries to rewrite your story and hand it to someone else, the only power left is to rewrite the ending on your terms. Her phone rang next. This time, her mother. Reina let it ring once. Twice, 3 times. Declined. A few minutes later, her father tried. She declined again. Then the phone rang a 3rd time. Layla. Ignored. But the 4th call. She answered. It was her mother again, voice trembling with practiced concern. Reina, sweetheart, can we just talk? Please, this has all gotten out